The crystal chandeliers of Belmont's cast fractured light across marble floors. Maya Richardson pushed through the brass-trimmed doors, ivory blazer crisp against her shoulders, briefcase swinging at her side. The restaurant hummed with quiet wealth, soft piano, clinking silverware, the murmur of deal-making over wine. She approached the hostess stand. The woman behind it, platinum blonde, emerald green dress clinging to sharp angles, looked up with practiced assessment. Her eyes traveled from Maya's face to her shoes and back, each second a calculation. "Good evening," Maya said. "A reservation for Richardson, 6:30. The hostess tapped her screen without urgency. "I'm not seeing anything." Maya's smile tightened. "I called yesterday. Confirmed this morning." The hostess tilted her head, fingernails drumming the podium. "We're fully booked tonight. 3-hour wait minimum." Behind Maya, the door opened. A white couple stepped in. Jeans, casual blazers, no reservation mentioned. The hostess's face transformed, warmth flooding in like stage lighting. "Right this way." She grabbed 2 menus, gestured toward the dining room. "We have a lovely table by the window." Maya stood frozen. The couple passed within inches, oblivious. The hostess returned, expression reset to cool indifference. "As I said, 3 hours." The air thickened. Maya's knuckles whitened around her briefcase handle. Through the archway she could see empty tables, 4, maybe 5, scattered across the dining room like lies made visible. "I see empty tables," Maya said quietly. The hostess didn't blink. "Those are reserved for 3 hours. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable elsewhere." The words landed soft, deliberate. A suggestion wrapped in dismissal. Maya's phone buzzed. Her colleagues, almost there. 10 minutes out. The hostess turned away, busying herself with menus that didn't need straightening. Maya Richardson didn't build a $200 million portfolio by losing her composure. At 38, she'd survived boardrooms where she was the only black face. Weathered investors who questioned her credentials while nodding at less qualified men, and smiled through 1,000 microaggressions disguised as compliments. She'd grown up in West Philadelphia, raised by a grandmother who cleaned houses in neighborhoods exactly like this one. Maya watched her leave before dawn, return after dark, dignity intact despite exhaustion etched in every line of her face. Her grandmother's lessons were simple. Work twice as hard, speak half as loud, and when they try to make you small, remember, you're not asking for permission. Maya put herself through Wharton on scholarships and spite. She graduated top of her class, took a job at a venture capital firm, and spent 5 years proving she belonged. Then she left and started her own fund. Now she invested in companies others overlooked, women-led startups, minority-owned businesses, ideas dismissed by men who couldn't see past their own reflection. She'd been to Belmont's before. Twice, actually. Once for a client dinner, once for a pitch meeting. Both times she'd been treated with professional courtesy. Not warmth, but respect. Standard. Today was different. She'd chosen this restaurant deliberately. Neutral ground for a deal worth $15 million. A tech acquisition. Her firm was brokering between 2 stubborn founders. The reservation was confirmed. The table was supposed to be waiting. Instead, she stood in the lobby, humiliation creeping up her spine like cold water. Her phone buzzed again. "Parking now. See you in 5. Maya looked back at the hostess, who was seating another couple, older, white, dressed in casual linen. No wait, no hesitation. The injustice wasn't new, but it never stopped cutting. She could leave. Text her colleagues. Suggest the cafe down the street. Laugh it off as a booking mix-up. Preserve the deal, swallow the insult, move on. Or she could stay. Maya's jaw tightened. Her grandmother's voice whispered through memory. "Baby, sometimes you gotta buy the table they won't give you." She stepped toward the hostess stand again. "Excuse me," Maya's voice cut through the lobby chatter. "I'd like to speak with the manager." The hostess looked up, irritation flickering across her face. "The manager is busy." "Then I'll wait." "Ma'am, I've already explained." "You've explained that you're fully booked." Maya gestured toward the dining room. "But I count 4 empty tables, and I've watched you seat 3 walk-ins in the last 10 minutes. The hostess's smile sharpened. "Those guests had reservations. So did I. I don't see it in the system." She turned the screen toward Maya, a pointed gesture of proof. The reservation list glowed, names stacked in neat rows. None said Richardson. Maya pulled out her phone, opened her email, and held up the confirmation. Time-stamped, verified. The hostess barely glanced at it. "Computer error." "It happens." Then corrected. "Seat me now, I can't." The words came clipped, final. "We're at capacity." Behind them, a family entered. Mother, father, 2 kids. The hostess's face softened instantly. "Welcome to Belmont's. Party of 4? Right this way." Maya watched them disappear into the dining room. The rage building in her chest wasn't hot. It was cold, precise, mathematical. A waiter passed, eyes sliding away from the confrontation. Another couple entered and was seated immediately. The hostess returned, expression unreadable. "As I said, ma'am, 3-hour wait, or I can recommend several other restaurants nearby." Maya's colleagues appeared in the doorway. 2 men, 1 white, 1 Asian, both in sharp suits. They spotted her, confusion crossing their faces. "Maya!" James, her co-investor, approached. "Everything okay?" The hostess's demeanor shifted subtly. "Gentlemen, do you have a reservation?" "We're with her," James said, nodding toward Maya. The hostess hesitated. For a brief electric moment, Maya saw the calculation. Could she dismiss 3 people, 2 of them men, as easily as she dismissed 1 black woman? "I see." The hostess's smile returned, thinner now. "Let me check the system again." Her fingers moved across the screen, slower this time. Maya knew what would happen next. A sudden discovery of availability. An apology wrapped in plausible deniability. A table offered as if the last 10 minutes hadn't happened. "Unfortunately," the hostess said. Voice sugar-coated. "We're still fully booked, but I can put you on the priority wait list." James frowned. "How long?" 2 to 3 hours. Maya's phone buzzed. Not a text, a calendar reminder. The deal meeting was supposed to start in 15 minutes. If they left now, found another spot, they'd miss the window. The founders were already anxious, ready to back out at any hint of disorganization. She looked at her colleagues. "Give me a moment." Maya stepped outside. The evening air hit her face, cool and sharp. She walked to the corner away from the restaurant's glow and let her hands shake. This wasn't the first time. It wouldn't be the last. But something about tonight, the casualness of the dismissal, the way the hostess hadn't even bothered to hide it, felt like a line crossed. She thought of her grandmother, scrubbing floors in houses like the ones surrounding this restaurant. She thought of every conference room where her ideas were ignored until a man repeated them. Every time she'd been followed in stores. Every traffic stop that lasted too long. Exhaustion settled over her, heavy as wet wool. But beneath it, something else stirred. Not anger. Anger was messy, uncontrolled. This was clarity, sharp-edged and cold. Maya pulled up her financial database on her phone. Her fingers moved with muscle memory, typing in the restaurant's name. Belmont's, established 1987, privately owned by Gerald Harmon. Recent filings showed declining revenue, increased debt load, missed payments on commercial loans. She expanded the report. $3 million in debt. Foreclosure proceedings initiated 60 days ago. The restaurant was drowning. Her grandmother's voice whispered through memory, the lesson that had carried Maya through every boardroom battle. Real power isn't asking for a seat at the table, baby. It's buying the table yourself. Maya looked back at the restaurant. Through the windows, the hostess stood at her podium, greeting new guests with a smile that would never be offered to someone who looked like Maya. She opened her contacts, scrolled to her assistant's number and hit call. "Sarah, I need a full workup on Belmont's restaurant. Ownership structure, debt analysis, liens, everything." "Yes, tonight. I'll explain later." She hung up and returned to the restaurant entrance. Her colleagues were outside now, frustrated and checking their watches. "Maya, we should find another place," James said. "The founders are getting impatient." Maya looked at him, then at the restaurant. "Give me 30 minutes. "For what?" She didn't answer. She walked back inside, past the hostess, and sat in the lobby waiting area. She opened her laptop, and she began to work. Maya's grandmother used to tell stories while braiding her hair on Sunday afternoons. Stories about dignity, about survival, about the difference between power given and power taken. "I clean houses for people who think I'm invisible," her grandmother would say, fingers working through Maya's curls. "They leave their papers on the table, their conversations hanging in the air. They think I don't notice. But I see everything, baby, and I remember." One story stayed with Maya through the years. Her grandmother had worked for a wealthy family in Bryn Mawr. Huge house, pristine lawn, children who barely acknowledged her existence. One day the lady of the house hosted a charity luncheon. 20 women gathered in the dining room to discuss helping the poor while her grandmother served them tea. "They talked about us like we weren't human," her grandmother said. "Like we were problems to be solved, not people with dreams." She paused, her hands stilling. "But you know what I did? I listened, I learned, and I saved every dollar they paid me. Invested it. Grew it." By the time Maya was 10, her grandmother owned 3 rental properties in West Philadelphia. Small buildings, modest income, but hers. Fully paid off. "They thought I was just the help," her grandmother said, "but I was learning how they built their wealth, and I used it." Maya carried that lesson to Wharton, to Wall Street, to her own firm. She learned the language of wealth, the mechanisms of power. She became fluent in a world that didn't want her, and she'd used that knowledge to build something they couldn't take away. Now, sitting in the lobby of Belmont's, she opened her investment portfolio. She'd made her first million by 28. Her 10th by 35. She invested in restaurants, hotels, real estate, all the spaces where people like her had historically been excluded. She'd looked at Belmont's once before, 6 months ago. The numbers were bad then. They'd be worse now. Her phone buzzed. Sarah's email, full financial breakdown attached. Maya opened it. 3.2 million in debt. Owner desperate. Foreclosure imminent. She looked at the hostess, still smiling at guests, still turning away anyone who didn't fit her unspoken criteria. Maya began drafting an offer. Her colleagues paced nearby, confused but waiting. The deal with the founders was slipping away. Text messages were getting tenser, threats to walk becoming explicit. But Maya kept working, because this wasn't about the deal anymore. This was about the table. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard. She pulled comps from similar restaurants, analyzed cash flow projections, calculated a fair price adjusted for speed and desperation. 3.5 million, all cash. Close in 48 hours. It was overpaying by $500,000, but she wanted the owner to say yes immediately. She drafted the offer letter, copied her lawyer, and pulled up Gerald Harmon's contact information. Private cell, according to the database. She hesitated for only a moment. Then she dialed. He answered on the 3rd ring. "Hello? Mr. Harmon, this is Maya Richardson. I'm calling about Belmont's." Silence. Then, "I'm sorry, who?" "I'm a private investor. I'm sitting in your restaurant's lobby right now, and I'd like to make you an offer." His voice tightened. "For what?" "To purchase Belmont's. Full acquisition. Immediate close." She heard him exhale. "This isn't a good time." "I'm aware of your financial situation," Maya said quietly. "Foreclosure proceedings. 3.2 million in debt. 60 days until the bank takes it." Another silence, longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. "How do you know that?" "It's public record. I specialize in distressed asset acquisition." She kept her tone professional, clinical. "I'm offering 3.5 million, all cash, close in 48 hours. You walk away debt-free with 300,000 in your pocket. Why? The question came sharp, suspicious. Maya looked at the hostess, who was seating another couple, young, white, laughing. Because I was denied service in your restaurant tonight, despite having a confirmed reservation. Because your staff made it clear I wasn't welcome. And because I can. She let the words hang. I don't understand, Gerald said. You don't need to. You need to decide if you want to keep drowning or if you want a lifeline. Maya's voice softened just slightly. I'm sending the offer letter now. You have 2 hours to respond. After that, I walk away and you deal with the bank. She hung up before he could answer. Her heart hammered against her ribs. James approached, phone in hand. Maya, the founders are done waiting. They're threatening to kill the deal. She looked up at him. Let them. What? Tell them we'll reschedule. She turned back to her laptop. Something more important just came up. James stared at her, then at the hostess stand, and understanding flickered across his face. Maya, I'm buying this restaurant, she said quietly. Tonight. The hostess glanced over, sensing the shift in energy. Her smile faltered. Maya's phone rang. Gerald Harmon. She answered. I'll take the meeting, he said. Where are you? Maya looked around the lobby, the marble floors, the crystal chandeliers, the world that had tried to keep her out. I'm already here, she said. At your restaurant, I'll be in the lobby. She hung up and waited. 30 minutes later, Gerald Harmon walked through the front doors. Gerald Harmon looked like a man drowning in slow motion. His suit hung loose on shoulders that had once filled it properly. Grey threaded through his hair, and shadows pooled beneath his eyes. He scanned the lobby, spotted Maya, and walked over with the hesitant gait of someone approaching a life raft. Miss Richardson? Maya stood, extended her hand. Thank you for coming. He sat across from her, glancing nervously at the hostess stand. The blonde woman watched them with poorly concealed curiosity. Gerald cleared his throat. I'll be honest. I don't know what to make of this. Maya opened her laptop, turned it toward him. The offer letter glowed on screen, clean, professional, devastating in its clarity. 3.5 million, all cash. I'll cover closing costs. You keep 300,000 after debt settlement. His hands shook as he scrolled through the terms. This is generous. It's fair, Maya corrected. Your restaurant is worth 4 million on paper, but you need liquidity now. I'm offering speed and certainty. Why me? Why this place? His eyes searched hers, looking for the trap. Maya leaned back. I told you on the phone. I was denied service tonight. Your hostess decided I didn't belong here. Gerald's face paled. He looked toward the podium, then back at Maya. I don't. That's not our policy. You don't have a policy, Maya said quietly. That's the problem. You have a culture and it's rotting your business from the inside. He opened his mouth to protest, but she raised a hand. I've been in hospitality investments for 10 years. I know what kills restaurants. Bad food, sure. Bad location, but mostly bad culture. When your staff feels entitled to decide who belongs and who doesn't, you've already lost. Gerald slumped in his chair. I'm drowning. The loan payments, the overhead, the competition from newer places. I've been trying to keep it afloat for 2 years. I know, Maya said. And now you have a choice, sink or swim. He stared at the contract. What happens if I sign? You walk away clean. I take over immediately. Staff remains employed during transition, but I'll make changes. What kind of changes? Maya's gaze drifted to the hostess stand. The kind that ensure everyone who walks through those doors is treated with equal respect. Gerald followed her eyes. Understanding settled over him, heavy and uncomfortable. You're talking about Alicia. I'm talking about culture, Maya said. But yes, her specifically. He was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled a pen from his pocket. "Where do I sign?" Maya watched Gerald Harmon's signature appear on the screen, shaky, desperate, final. She countersigned, forwarded copies to her lawyer and accountant. The transaction would close in 48 hours, but ownership transferred immediately upon signed agreement. Belmont's was hers. Gerald stood, looking around the restaurant as if seeing it for the first time. Or the last time. "I built this place from nothing. 30 years. I know," Maya said gently, "and I'm losing it because I couldn't see what was happening under my own roof." His voice cracked. "I'm not a bad person." "I don't think you are," Maya said, "but you were absent, and absence creates space for cruelty." He nodded slowly, then walked toward the exit. At the door, he paused and looked back. "Make it better than I did." Then he was gone. Maya sat in the sudden stillness. Her colleagues had left an hour ago, frustrated but trusting her judgment. The founders had cancelled the deal, but she'd already moved on. Some opportunities were worth more than money. The hostess approached, professional mask firmly in place. "Ma'am, if you're not dining with us, I'll have to ask you to vacate the waiting area." Maya looked up at her. "What's your name?" The woman blinked. "Alicia." "Alicia." Maya closed her laptop. "I'm Maya Richardson. As of 20 minutes ago, I own this restaurant." The color drained from Alicia's face. What?" "You heard me." Maya stood, picking up her briefcase. "Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., I'll be meeting with all senior staff. You're expected to attend. I don't understand. You don't need to understand tonight." Maya walked toward the exit, then paused. "But tomorrow you'll answer for why you turned away a confirmed reservation while seating walk-ins. You'll explain your criteria for who belongs here and who doesn't, and then we'll discuss your future with this establishment." Alicia's mouth opened, closed. No words came. Maya pushed through the brass doors into the night. The city stretched before her, lights glittering, traffic humming, the world continuing its indifferent spin. She pulled out her phone and called her grandmother's number. It rang twice before she remembered. Her grandmother had been gone for 3 years. Maya stood on the sidewalk, briefcase in hand, feeling the weight of victory and loss tangled together. She'd won. She'd bought the table. But the woman who'd taught her how to fight wasn't here to see it. The tears came quietly, unexpectedly. She let them fall. Maya sat in her hotel room at 2 a.m., laptop open, staring at spreadsheets that blurred together. The acquisition documents were finalized. The wire transfer was scheduled. In 46 hours, Belmont's would be officially hers, but the triumph felt hollow. She'd sacrificed a $15 million deal to buy a restaurant out of spite. Her colleagues were furious. The founders had already reached out to competitors. Her reputation as a cool-headed investor had taken a hit. And for what? To prove a point? To punish a hostess who probably didn't even understand what she'd done wrong? Maya closed the laptop and walked to the window. Philadelphia glowed in the distance, the neighborhood where she'd grown up invisible from this height. She thought about her grandmother's rental properties, small victories, quiet accumulation of power. Her grandmother never made grand gestures. She moved carefully, strategically. Maya had just spent $3.5 million on anger. Her phone buzzed. A text from James. "Board is asking questions. Need to explain the Belmont's purchase. What's the ROI here?" She didn't respond. There was no ROI. Not in the traditional sense. She'd bought dignity. You couldn't put that on a balance sheet. Maya sat on the edge of the bed, exhaustion pressing down. The room felt too big, too quiet. She remembered sitting in her grandmother's kitchen, watching her count dollar bills and coins, carefully documenting every penny in a worn ledger. "Why do you keep track like this?" Maya had asked once. "Because they'll say I stole it if I don't," her grandmother replied. "They'll say I'm lying about what's mine. So I keep receipts, always." Maya had kept receipts her whole life. Perfect grades, flawless credentials, documentation for every achievement. Proof that she belonged in rooms that questioned her presence, But tonight she'd done something different. She hadn't proven she belonged. She'd bought the room. And now, in the hollow hours before dawn, she wasn't sure if that was power or just another kind of exhaustion. Her phone glowed with unanswered messages. She turned it face down and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow she'd have to face the staff. She'd have to justify the purchase to her board. She'd have to figure out how to run a restaurant she'd bought out of rage. But tonight she just felt tired. Morning came too quickly. Maya stood in the shower, letting hot water pound against her shoulders, and made a decision. If she was going to do this, she'd do it right. Not as revenge. As transformation. She called her assistant. "Sarah, I need you to pull together a team. Restaurant operations manager, HR consultant, someone who specializes in hospitality culture training. I want them at Belmont's by this afternoon." "For how long?" "Ongoing. I'm rebuilding this place from the ground up." Next, she called her board chair. "Marcus, I know you have questions about the Belmont's acquisition." "Questions is putting it mildly," he said dryly. "So you dropped a major deal to buy a struggling restaurant. The board wants to know if you've lost your mind." "I'm diversifying the portfolio," Maya said calmly. "Hospitality is a growth sector. Belmont's is a legacy brand with strong location value, but poor management. I saw an opportunity, and it has nothing to do with being turned away at the door." Maya was silent for a moment. "It has everything to do with that, but that doesn't make it a bad investment. I'm going to turn this restaurant into a model for inclusive hospitality. We'll make it profitable and prove that equity and profit aren't mutually exclusive." Marcus sighed. "You're asking me to sell that to the board?" "I'm telling you that's what I'm doing. Whether the board approves or not." Another sigh. "You're going to give me a heart attack, Maya," she smiled. "You love it." After she hung up, Maya got dressed. A sharp burgundy blazer, fitted black pants, gold earrings. Armor for battle. She arrived at Belmont's at 8:30, 30 minutes before the staff meeting. The restaurant looked different in morning light. Less glamorous, more worn. The marble floors needed resealing. The paint was chipped in corners. She could see the decline Gerald had tried to hide beneath dim lighting and expensive wine lists. But the bones were good. The space had potential. Alicia arrived at 8:55, face pale, movements careful. She saw Maya standing in the dining room and froze. "Good morning," Maya said evenly. "Good morning." Alicia's voice was barely above a whisper. "Coffee." Maya gestured to the station she'd set up. Carafe, cups, pastries from a bakery down the street. Okay. They stood in uncomfortable silence, waiting for the others to arrive. By 9:15, the dining room was full. Waitstaff, kitchen crew, managers, 23 people total, all watching Maya with expressions ranging from curiosity to hostility. Alicia sat in the back, arms crossed, defensive. Maya stood at the front of the room, calm and centered. "Thank you for coming. I know this is sudden. My name is Maya Richardson, and as of yesterday I'm the new owner of Belmont's." Murmurs rippled through the group. Someone whispered, "What happened to Gerald?" "Gerald sold the restaurant to me," Maya continued. "He's no longer involved in operations. I'll be bringing in a new management team over the next few weeks, but I wanted to meet with you first." She paused, letting the weight settle. 2 nights ago I came to this restaurant with a confirmed reservation. I was turned away and told there was a 3-hour wait. While I stood in the lobby, I watched multiple walk-in parties get seated immediately. All of them were white. I am not. The room went still. Alicia's face flushed red. "I'm not here to shame anyone," Maya said quietly, "but I am here to be clear about what happened and what's going to change. This restaurant has a culture problem. Whether intentional or not, it's created an environment where guests are treated differently based on how they look. That ends today." A waiter raised his hand. "Are you saying we're racist?" "I'm saying the system allowed discrimination to happen," Maya replied. "Whether individuals are racist is less important than whether the culture enables unequal treatment." And it did. She pulled up a slide on the screen behind her, data she'd pulled overnight. In the past 6 months, Belmont's has had declining revenue. You've lost repeat customers. Reviews mention staff being cold or dismissive. This isn't just a moral issue, it's a business problem. People don't return to places where they feel unwelcome. Another slide appeared. Here's my plan. 1. Mandatory hospitality training for all front-of-house staff. 2. Revised reservation and seating policies with clear written protocols. 3. Diversified hiring practices. 4. Accountability measures including customer feedback systems and regular staff reviews. She looked directly at Alicia. And 5. Immediate termination for anyone who violates the new policies. Alicia stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. I've worked here for 5 years. And in those 5 years, how many guests like me were turned away? Maya's voice remained calm. How many times did you decide someone didn't fit your idea of who belongs here? I was doing my job, Alicia said defensively. Your job is hospitality, Maya countered. Your job is making everyone feel welcome. You failed. You can't prove. I don't need to prove anything beyond what happened to me. Maya stepped closer. You looked at me and decided I didn't belong. You turned me away despite having empty tables. You seated walk-ins while I waited. Those are facts. Alicia's jaw tightened. So you bought the whole restaurant just to fire me? No, Maya said. I bought this restaurant to make sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else. Firing you is just the first step. The room held its breath. You're terminated, effective immediately, Maya continued. You'll receive 2 weeks severance. Security will escort you to collect your belongings. Alicia's face crumpled. For a moment, Maya felt a flicker of something, not quite sympathy, but recognition. This woman had probably never thought of herself as cruel. She'd just enforced invisible rules, unwritten codes passed down through culture and comfort, but impact mattered more than intention. Alicia left without another word. Escorted by the manager, Maya had asked to stay. Maya turned back to the remaining staff. I know this is uncomfortable. Change always is, but I'm not here to destroy this place. I'm here to build something better. You're all welcome to stay and be part of that, but only if you're committed to treating every guest with equal dignity. She paused. Questions? A young server raised her hand tentatively. What if we make mistakes? Then we learn, Maya said. I'm not expecting perfection. I'm expecting effort and honesty. Own your mistakes, learn from them, move forward. The room slowly exhaled. Not acceptance yet, but openness, a willingness to try. It was enough. 6 weeks later, Belmont's reopened after a brief renovation period. New staff joined the existing team, carefully selected for skill and attitude. The dining room gleamed with fresh paint and reupholstered chairs, but the biggest changes were invisible. Maya stood in the lobby on opening night, watching the new hostess, a young Latina woman named Sophia, greet guests with genuine warmth. Every party was welcomed the same way. Every table offered with equal enthusiasm. Reservations were up 30%. Reviews glowed with words like welcoming, inclusive, finally feels like a place for everyone. Maya visited regularly, not to micromanage, but to observe. She watched Sophia handle a difficult customer with grace. She saw the kitchen staff, now more diverse, work together with efficient camaraderie. She noticed the servers check in with each other, supporting and encouraging. The culture was shifting, slowly but genuinely. One evening, an older black couple entered, hesitant at the door. Maya watched from across the room as Sophia greeted them warmly, immediately seating them at a prime table. The woman's face lit up with surprised delight. Maya felt her grandmother's presence, a warmth in her chest. This is what I meant, baby. Not just buying the table, building the room. The restaurant thrived under new management. Revenue climbed steadily. Staff turnover dropped. The space became known not just for good food, but for treating everyone like they mattered. Maya kept her office on the second floor, working on other investments, but staying connected to Belmont's. It became her proof of concept, evidence that inclusive culture and profitability weren't opposing forces. And late at night, when the restaurant was empty and she stood alone in the dining room, she thought about the woman she'd been 6 weeks ago. Standing in this lobby, humiliated and invisible, she'd bought the table. But more than that, she'd opened the door. Maya stood at the window of her grandmother's old house in West Philadelphia. She'd kept it after her grandmother passed, couldn't bring herself to sell it. The neighborhood had changed some, but the bones remained. Row houses with scrubbed stoops, corner stores, the sound of kids playing in the street. She thought about the journey from this block to Belmont's marble floors. The distance wasn't measured in miles. Her grandmother used to say power came in 2 forms, the kind that breaks you down and the kind that builds you up. Maya had built something. Not just wealth, not just a portfolio. She'd built a space where dignity was default, not negotiable. Belmont's wasn't perfect. It would never be perfect. But it was better. And better mattered. She pulled out her phone and opened the photo album. Pictures of the reopening night. Diverse faces, genuine smiles. A room full of people who belonged simply because they'd walked through the door. Her grandmother's voice echoed through memory one last time. Real power isn't destroying those who hurt you, baby. It's building something better in their place. Maya locked up the house and drove back to the restaurant. She had a reservation, at her own table in her own restaurant in a world she'd refused to accept as unchangeable. The hostess greeted her by name. "Good evening, Ms. Richardson. Your table is ready." Maya smiled. "Thank you, Sophia." She sat by the window, ordered a meal, and watched the city lights flicker on. Somewhere out there, another woman would face discrimination. Another door would close in someone's face. The work was never finished, but here in this space everyone had a seat, and that was something. They tried to keep her out. She bought the door.